That noise is magnificent. In this video, I'm unexpectedly putting a 2004 Nissan Stagea through its paces, and I'm looking forward to finding out more about what this is and what it's like to drive. So Stagea is an estate. Here it is, looking quite like a Volvo, the way these rear lights follow the form here. So it's probably best to think of the Stagea as a sporty estate. The original one, the first generation, was based on the R33 Skyline platform. So that made it very exciting, with legendary RB26 engine available in some models with twin turbos and silly amounts of power. This second generation model is based on the V35 Skyline that replaced the R34. But was it really a Skyline? That's probably a debate for another channel on another day. It was rather ordinary four-door saloon, now using the VQ V6 engines, also seen in the 350Z. In fact, that Skyline and this Stagea use the FM platform, as it's known, also used on Nissans you've never heard of, like the Fuga, which was their big luxury car. I saw some of those in New Zealand, very fine looking cars indeed. But yeah, the 350Z and other Infinity models as well, which was Nissan's equivalent to Lexus. We didn't see all that many of those in the UK, but I'm pretty sure you did in America. But for my money, the pick of the lot is the Stagea. I think it's quite a nice looking car, and very practical as well, albeit practical with a 3.5 litre V6 engine and an automatic transmission with four-wheel drive. So economy, we're not here to discuss economy, it'll be low 20s, but don't tell anyone. That's not what these cars are about. These are about family-friendly motoring that's actually an awful lot of fun. Now I will say, I think the Stagea's styling is rather ordinary at the front, but also a bit weird. These headlamps seem remarkably low down. But I'm going to pop the bonnet and we'll take a look at the VQ engine that powers these cars. I think it was available in 2.5 litre, briefly a 2.5 litre turbo, and then the 3.5 litre as used in the 350Z. So that's 280 brake horsepower in a family wagon. Let's lift the bonnet and have a look at what's going on. We sadly have to use a bonnet stay. Where does that go home? There it is. Let's lock that in. But yeah, it's a modern engine, so you can't actually see very much of it. It's covered by this big lump of plastic, but it sits quite far back, so it's right between the suspension struts, and it's got a power duct, it says there, to force air into that engine, and a glass fiber composite panel here on the front end, designed to save weight. It's still a heavy car though. We're talking 1.6 tons, so it's not exactly a featherweight, but mind you, it's got all this technology in it. So the 5-speed automatic gearbox is on the back, sends its power to the rear wheels most of the time, bunging it to the front if it detects slip. So should be quite good for traction. Now, this example was imported 5 years ago and it had only 29,000 kilometers on the clock. Apparently it's since covered another 100,000 kilometers, so the owner is not scared to use it, which is why the engine bay looks like a used engine bay. This isn't a show pony, this is a heavily used car, albeit a heavily used car with 22 mpg. Brave owner. Let's go and take a look inside and see what it's like in here. In here there's a lovely ambience. The doors shut really nicely. Yes, there's a lot of black plastic, but it's quite stylish with this brushed aluminium centre, and surprisingly for a Japanese car, quite minimalist. We've just got these few buttons for the heating and ventilation controls and a mini disc player, although thankfully it does also take CDs. And then we've just got the transmission selector here for the 5-speed gearbox, and really that's about it. The owner has fitted these paddles, which I think might be from a 350Z, certainly from another Nissan model, so you've got more control of the automatic gearbox. And if I put the ignition on, we've got quite a nice looking gauge cluster, ping, in orange. Sort of recalls the Nissan Bluebirds and other sporty Nissans of the 1980s, like the Silvia. Nissan really went in for orange in a very big way. Really comfortable seat, although this seat is actually taken out of a 350Z. 350Z for you Americans, because the original seats are quite high. Japanese being fairly small people, they don't need to sit too low, so the owner has fitted this seat primarily to get his head away from the roof. But very comfortable, very firm, but very supportive. I like it a lot. We've got another little display up here. There's storage all over the place. But yeah, so far it feels very nice and comfortable in the front here. Let's take a peek in the back. Here in the rear, it's a mixture of cramped and spacious. I've got a surprising amount of headroom given how low the roofline is, but that's because the seat is quite low. And for my Western legs, I'm lacking under thigh support. I think that would get uncomfortable on a long run. On the plus side, got the obligatory center armrest. There are some drinks holders built into the seat base down here, and I can adjust the seat for rake. So if I want to be more relaxed, I can be. So that's quite nice. Now, tailgate has a very satisfying action on it. It lifts up and takes a section of the roof with it, so you've actually got easy access to get into the back of the car. It's quite a big load space, but the roof is quite low, so it does limit to some extent the items you can get in here. If I need more room for lying down, I can just pull this handle here, and then down goes the seat back, and it makes an entirely flat floor. So if I do the other one as well, you've got a really decent load area. So it's just like a Volvo. And there's all sorts of storage under the floor as well, various panels, lots of lashing points to tie down your shopping and things like that. So it's been really well thought out. And if I back you up just a little and bring the tailgate down again, of course there's a little handle there to hold it. It's got a soft close, and it's also got a lift up tailgate glass, just like my Citroen C5 has, but doesn't work. Unfortunately, the rear wiper doesn't work. It's a similar system where the motor stays in the lower part of the tailgate. So that means I can move the wiper like that, but sadly it doesn't work with electric power. But this is a driver's car, so we should really take it for a drive. The owner has fitted a modified exhaust. The wheels are aftermarket as well, and it's had some suspension upgrades because the original suspension just wore out, so it sounds mean and moody and purposeful. But really we need to go for a drive, so let's do that. Handbrake off. It's a push lever, just like in a Nissan Leaf, which is probably the only time a Stagea has been compared to an electric car. It's sort of relaxing. It feels like a slushy sort of a gearbox. It's very quick with its changes though, but very, very smooth. And we just need to do the important business of the windscreen wiper test, because this is Hubnut, and we'll note that the washers are on the arms themselves. Works very nicely indeed. Good overlap, no triangle of doom. Nissan generally quite good at wipers. But of course, once you actually put your foot down, the character of this car changes entirely. We should do that after the bend rather than before it. That's 6,500 revs, and yeah, 60 miles an hour comes up quite quickly. I will point out for the eagle eye, the speedometer is in kilometers rather than miles. But yeah, it's very responsive as well. So when you need a bit of shove, it'll drop a gear or two and away you go. And cruising along at 60 miles an hour here, we're doing a smidge over 2,500 revs. So it is relaxing. You're just aware it is slurping an awful lot of go-go juice. So other than that four-wheel drive, which sends the drive to the front wheels if the rears start struggling, and anti-lock braking, it really hasn't got very much in the way of driver aids. There is no traction control. So let's see what happens if we try and do a hasty pull-out. Blimey! Oh, that sounds nice. Oh, that is spicy and so very, very enjoyable. Anyone who says automatics aren't fun maybe driving the wrong automatics. This one is nice and smooth and quick on those changes, so it doesn't feel like it's impeding the engine at all. In so many ways, this is basically a more practical and slightly safer Nissan 350Z. It feels very tight in terms of handling, although you never really lose the feel of size. It is quite a big car. Well, so far I must admit that I'm not really feeling the need to put it into paddle mode all that often. It generally seems pretty good at being in the right gear. Let's go and find a road that's a bit twistier. Indicators right. I mean, yeah, I would like a downshift there, I suppose, but that noise is magnificent. That is a noise you could listen to all day. So any doubts that this engine might be drastically inferior to the mighty RB26, at least in road use, I'm not convinced by that. Sure, the RB26 can be modified to a quite ridiculous degree, but I think that's the problem, that you kind of have to go that route. This feels fine to me, and sadly I did an overtake that was off camera, and it was just like, I need to pan out, there it is, woof, round and gone. Very impressive, because a laggy automatic would utterly destroy this whole experience. And yes, the ride is firm and it can crash over some surfaces, but it's very composed most of the time. Hairpin. That is a nice noise. And I think the aftermarket exhaust just helps it bark that little bit more. It's not overbearing, thankfully. I'll admit this is quite a lot better than I thought. I have driven quite a few Skylines, and most Skylines scare the living bejesus out of me because they just have so much power. This is very enjoyable, although I still find myself wanting to keep my foot in as the legal limit comes up, and that's just not my style, which leaves me feeling like there's a lot of unsung potential here that I'm not making the most of. This car could do things I can't get near exploiting on a public road, which ultimately leaves you questioning the point of such cars. But is it putting a smile on my face? Oh yes it is. Yet another knock to my power less is more motto. Yeah, that never really wears off. That's wonderful. The brakes respond well to a good shove, but oh, slow down a bit more for this one, I think. Get the power back on. Although I think you'd be going some to run out of grip in this car, but I really don't want to do that. The steering isn't too bad for a power steering setup. It's a little numb, but I feel reasonably confident that I know what's going on. Yeah, this is just a nice car to drive. It's certainly not a one-trick pony. The air conditioning is absolutely fantastic because of course it is, it's a Japanese car. And it's very easy to drive, very pleasant. It doesn't shake, rattle and roll you. Right, uphill. What hill? Oh, I think I like it. I've been corrupted yet again by those crafty Japanese. Oh, well there we go. That's something a bit different on the Hubnut. And what I love about this car is it looks so ordinary, yet has such hilarious performance. I do like a Q car. Nissan Skylines put me off because they're all leery and shouty and look at me and my power. I much prefer something that hides its power under a bushel, as this car does very nicely. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget you can head to the Hubnut store and find all sorts of lovely merchandise and everything. And I look forward to seeing you in a future video. Farewell.